Here's the story, which is coming together in the past couple of hours. Spectator Index reporting breaking. Western military official says all signals are that U.S. attack on Iran is imminent, according to Reuters report. We have this from Polymarket breaking 51% chance the U.S. strikes Iran tonight, up from 45. And oh boy, take a look at this. From Mario Knopfel, the airspace is cleared. Brace yourself. So we saw this with Venezuela. Now it's happening with Iran.
And I almost just said in the intro, pray for these people, because the whole purpose of this is to help the protesters that are apparently under siege or something, being killed by the government. You do not carpet bomb cities to help the people that live in the cities.
When is the last time the United States carpet bombed?
I don't know what they're going to do. Precision strikes with drone tech we've never seen before.
Generally, precision strikes are the order of the 21st century.
And even more precision than we've ever seen in the world before. Venezuela
was pretty precise.
We've got this update from Mario Knopfel. He says Trump wants swift and decisive blow to Iran, but advisors can't guarantee regime collapse. The president told his team he doesn't want a war dragging on for months. If he does something, he wants it to be definitive. The problem is that no one can promise him the regime falls quickly. That could mean a limited initial strike with options to escalate. Meanwhile, hundreds of U.S. troops just left Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar for a safer location in case Iran retaliates. I mean, we got a ton of updates. The airspace being cleared. We've got, look, this is wild. Look at this.
It's so good.
Who's this? Why is China flying two planes in
Leroy
Iran
Jenkins.
while the airspace is closed? No. Mahan air flights from Guangzhou and Shenzhen heading to Tehran as entire region clears airspace. What is China doing? Sending planes into a strike zone, sending in components for making weapons.
Yeah.
That's what we saw last time, and it seems like it is what they're doing now. And so there was another. Here we go. Check this out. Pentagon orders USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group to the Middle East from the South China Sea. Holy crap. My concern here is that China may, if we pull our assets from the South China Sea, China could make a move on Taiwan, and then we're going to be stuck in a conflict in Iran.
We still have two other carriers in the South China Sea, or they're near Japan right now at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really that much of an Iran hawk, so I hope our engagement here is limited. But if they're confident that they can inflict a serious blow here, I mean, look, they got the hot hand after Venezuela. Again, I'm not keen on this, but after Venezuela, I have a lot of faith, honestly, in Hegseth, Trump, and the team. I mean, I know that's like the safest take you could possibly have right now, but it's just the truth. It's the reality of the situation.
I really feel like the situation that went down in Venezuela really kind of put the rest of the world kind of on alert and said, look, the world is run by power, and the United States is still the most powerful military in the world. Russia can't even beat little Russia. Like, they were supposed to be 3 days, and they've been there for 3 years. I don't think that China has the type of army that people are afraid they do. Really, the thing that deters war when it comes to the bigger militaries in the U.S. is the bigger militaries in the world is nuclear arms, and I don't think that it's in no one's interest to get into a nuclear war. So I think that for the most part, the U.S. can kind of do whatever it wants in most places. And whether that's good or bad, I think that's not really the argument I'm making. I'm just saying that that's kind of the reality.
So there are some interesting developments from the Washington Post. They say Trump says Iran has stopped killings as U.S. weighs military options. And we have this report from Mario Knopfel that Iran's NOTAM expires, traffic can resume. Could it be that we just narrowly averted U.S. intervention by some kind of deal? We've got, Bill Ackman saying, is it possible that Trump made a deal for Khomeini and his son to leave Iran? This would explain why Trump has stated the killing has stopped and why he's holding off on the attack for now. The skies could not be reopened above Iran without total certainty that there would be no attack. The pause would, of course, allow Khomeini to seek safe passage to Moscow. To be clear, it's total speculation, but I think it's good speculation. In fact, that flight we saw from China may have been an evacuation. So they closed the airspace. Trump says, we're going to blow you the F up, or you can leave, or we can get you. Khomeini gets on that single flight, and now they're going to reopen the airspace.
From what I've just read about some of the way that the structure of the Iranian government works, if I understand correctly, not that I'm some kind of expert, I'm not trying to put on airs or anything, but like, if I understand correctly, like, Khomeini isn't actually the dude, and the people that are actually running the show are actually fairly shadow kind of figures. They don't really put their name out there, and so if you get rid of Khomeini, not much is going to change. There was a lot of speculation that once they got rid of Soleimani, that was going to be a big change in Russia, and in Iran, and that didn't materialize. So if Khamenei's not the guy, him leaving is really irrelevant, I guess.
I'm getting a phone call real quick. Let me just get this real quick. Hello?
Shalom.
Yes? Yes. Really? Did it clear? All 7,000. Excellent. War with Iran is a good thing. I think all of our troops should be in Iran. Iran should be U.S. territory, and I love Israel.
Okay, so why did you look at me when you said Israel?
You looked at me first, though.
I want to say something, though. I think to your point of like how you're not keen on this, and obviously I am with the people of Iran on this, like the people who love freedom, love the West, all that, which is actually not necessarily even the majority of Iranian people, but people should care about the U.S. getting involved in this, and they should be happy about it, because I want us to like talk about something a little different, which is the future is AI. I know this is random, but whether or not people like it, AI is the future. AI requires astronomical amounts of energy, okay? Right now, we as Americans, if you're America first, that means you want American supremacy. American supremacy means we are on top of the AI race. We need to secure energy. We need to destabilize our enemies' energy. That means China and Russia, who have, by the way, been getting oil from Venezuela and Iran. This is not a coincidence that we're dealing with both Venezuela and Iran at the start of this year.
You know, my principal concerns have been over the past several years that the United States domestically has been screwed up, infrastructure-wise, culturally, and we spent decades in Afghanistan and Iraq for a very obvious reason, to surround Iran, one of the countries we wanted to invade. And so what we end up getting this woke revolution where the Democrats are like, maybe we should cut off, little girls' tits or whatever. And regular people are like, stop, what is wrong with you? At the sacrifice of our country, we were allocating we were prioritizing this BS. In the event, so I would say it like this: what we don't want, U.S. destabilizing regions, causing more death and chaos, which blows back on us. What we don't want, conflict in general in these regions. I know the military-industrial complex probably loves it, selling weapons to both sides. What we do want, U.S. supremacy,
yes,
100%. But that doesn't mean we're the world police, in my opinion.
I'm not saying world police, right?
I know.
We put in a dictator. I'm not saying we should bring democracy to them. This was the big mistake with Iraq. We said, let's give these people democracy. With Afghanistan, we had these like feminist NGOs trying to make the Afghani girls like girl bosses, right? It was ridiculous.
Exactly.
Right? But I'm saying put in a pro-West, pro-America, non-Islamist dictator. By the way, the Shah was not democracy either. The Shah was essentially like a benevolent dictator.
So here's the challenge with the removal of Maduro. What we don't want to happen is for a power vacuum to occur, and then narco gangs, terrorists come in, and then Venezuela falls apart.
Let me tell you why I'm so sick of the argument of like it could be worse. Because that's like telling someone to stay with a man that beats her because the next guy might kill her. You know? Like, it's really bad. It's really bad.
That's like saying, the analogy I used is you've got a neighbor who's selling drugs and is beating his wife.
Right.
And you're like, I really don't think I should get involved in the gang fight and conflict. But the point is, as much as you don't want to get involved because different gangs might come in and fight, at a certain point you call the cops go in and stop the guy from selling drugs and doing these bad things. My point is, I think a generation traumatized by the failures of the neocon policies in these countries is justified. That being said, right now we're looking at people so traumatized, they're like, the U.S. should not engage in any kind of pressure campaigns, influence, or conflict internationally. And that just means China dominates, and then in 2 or 3 generations, it's going to cost $50,000 for a laptop, and China controls oil and controls the world.
Yes.
And I don't want that for my kids or for myself.
I agree.
It looks like the deep state, the military-industrial complex is like, all right, there's a revolution in Iran right now. It looks like the people are about to revolt. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it now. And the Iranian government is a theocracy. It's a vile dictatorship that has posed as a republic and betrayed its people. So it topples. And COVID snapped people the fuck up. If you don't remember, think back. Iranians too. They're fucking tired of it. Are you kidding me? Are you not? So people want sovereignty. And this is what's happening. It's just, I'm with you on the sentiment. We want to make sure they survive. It's not about blowing up their infrastructure in order to save them. We have to thread a needle.
I think the challenge is very, very simple. Because I said this back in 2016. I said it every year since. Hillary Clinton was the American hegemonic candidate. If you wanted cheap laptops, cheap oil, laziness, and all of this stuff, then she was your candidate because she was going to go to war with Russia. They were going to prop up the petrodollar, and the United States would continue debasing its manufacturing infrastructure. And then a few generations later, we're all destitute, like what's happening right now. Donald Trump, however, was seemingly less concerned with enforcing American hegemonic power, and I would argue, in many ways, rightly so. However, Saudi Arabia gets off the petrodollar deal, which means as a country that doesn't produce anything, Trump probably realized, hey, wait a minute. We can't stop the petrodollar system until we have a manufacturing base. Otherwise, America collapses overnight. We do not export enough relative to our imports to justify the strength of our economy compared to every other nation. It's actually quite simple. We force other nations to use the U.S. dollar to buy oil. Well, that's starting to falter. And it seems like Trump is now trying to reinforce that. And I actually think the reason why he didn't want to release the Epstein files, as I've long argued, is that there's going to be Saudi princes in there. And Trump is probably telling Bongino and everybody else, do not release this stuff because I got to get them back on the petrodollar. Otherwise, our economy is cooked. So what happens then? They just sold $500 million in Venezuelan oil. Silver is up near $100 an ounce. If you want to buy an ounce, a little coin on a website, it's $105. That is apocalyptic level stuff. I think Trump's recognizing you can't overnight flip the regime on its head. There has to be, we are in this system, we are in the petrodollar system, and if you end it, we end with it. There's got to be a transition. That's why I think Trump is doing these limited military engagements, snatch and grab with Maduro, and what appears to be a get out of the country before we nuke you, and we don't go to war. Trump learned a lesson from the neocons. You invade, you get 20 years of chaos. If you can get the job done with a finger snap, do the finger snap.
Yeah, well, because Trump's entire approach to geopolitics, people, when he came on the scene, they sort of portrayed him as if he was this like anti-war hippie, which is not really a correct assessment of Trump's view of geopolitics.
He did call himself the president of peace, though.
Sure. Well, there's a lot of emphasis on that because you have to look at like what did he say about the Iraq War? What was his problem with the Iraq War? It wasn't like, oh, this was like a geopolitical quagmire, which was he alluded to that. His primary qualm with the Iraq War was that we didn't get the oil. Like he said that over and over again. He was frustrated because he's saying like America is undeniably the unipolar power, right? We're the global hegemon. If we're going to conduct ourselves like an empire, we ought to be bringing treasure back to the United States. If we're going to operate in this way, we need to be making it worth it for the American people. And so that was his whole issue with the Iraq War fundamentally, is that like, look, where's the oil? Like if we're going to do all this, carry out these regimes, settle scores, these sorts of things, that's great for the Beltway. But how do you sell this to the American people? What's in it for them? And so it's just like, it's a very classical view of empire building. And I
think it's so easy. And I beg the military industrial complex to just be honest with people, okay? Because when they go, the poor Iranian people's freedom, they're fighting so hard for freedom. I go, I hear ya. But there are so many countries where people are fighting for freedom and we can't invade them all. Trump, I love it. Because he comes out in his first term and he gets asked about a weapons deal with Saudi Arabia and he goes, it's amazing. We're going to sell tons of weapons to the Saudis. It's going to be great for the economy. And all of the anti-war progressives, their jaws hit the floor and they were like, he just said it.
Yeah.
He just admitted what we are and what we do. And so I tell you this, they need to explain to the American people, do you like having cheap goods and doing minimal labor for high wages? Do you like having a median income of $50,000 a year where I know it's rough relative to Americans, like my rent is so dang high. Sure is. Silver is through the roof. You can live like a Brazilian at $8,000 a year. You can live in a favela where you can't flush your toilet. So when we live in luxury, there is this liberal fever dream where everything we just have, there's an abundance of infinite wealth, when the reality is, where do we get sulfur from? And why do we need sulfur? We need it for computer components, for our advanced MRI technology or helium and things like this. Well, third worlders are mining sulfur while their teeth fall out of their mouths from the sulfuric vapors and they stuff rags in their mouth, and you aren't going to do it. So we find countries where the people do, and we buy it from them. We have. I don't think the American people understand that. I love the argument of the illegal immigrants do the jobs the Americans won't, because that's not true. There's tons of Americans that have no problem working in a meat processing plant. However, Americans are not going to be working in a sulfur mine for the most part. There are a lot of core resource jobs that we get from other countries that we pay very, very low amounts of money for because they don't have the development to compete with us.
Yeah.
So you sell the American people the truth, and that is the reason why we want to remove the Iranian regime is because we want an Iranian government that is in the petrodollar system. The reason why we removed Maduro is because in 2006, I believe it was, he stole billions of dollars in American oil assets, and we just did nothing about it. And I'm really irked by this because if there's anything that justifies a response, it's stealing our stuff. We cut legitimate deals with Venezuela so that we could have oil. They elect a commie, and then he says, your oil's mine now. And the America was like, I guess we'll have to figure it out later. And then we get these stupid PR campaigns where it's like, let's advocate against Venezuela. Well, 20 years later, Trump said, I'm done with this. You stole it from us in the first place. So when Trump sells Venezuelan oil for $500 million, and all these hippie progressives are like, the CIA is trying to destabilize Venezuela. Well, maybe we'll get our stuff back. I'll tell you this. I don't want to go in your house. You're my neighbor, right? I'm not going to kick your door in. I'm going to leave you the F alone. But if we have an agreement, I'll let you borrow my bike and you're going to pay me back, but then you steal my bike, I'm going to go in there and take my bike back from you.
Yeah. Well, Tim, this is why we have to take out the trash in Venezuela and Iran. Let's talk about the numbers, right, of what the oil is. Between Venezuela and Iran, if that's not on the petrodollar, we are in the minority globally when it comes to dollars being traded for oil. With Venezuela, with Iran, we tilt just over, we're like a hair over 50% with oil being traded in US dollars. What Venezuela has been doing is they said we want to free ourselves from the dollar, right? What people need to understand is when Henry Kissinger in 1974 made the deal with the Saudis to trade oil exclusively in USD, that made the US dollar the global reserve currency. That is very powerful. That stabilizes the US dollar, that guarantees inflation staying lower. Do you remember what happened this last year with this summer when Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz? Do people remember that?
It was like blown open almost immediately.
No, when it was closed, all the shipping containers in the world were going around the fucking southern tip of Africa. And that was also a huge factor in inflation. And costs are going up.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.